Hey, welcome back everybody. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Kurt Vaughn and we run this channel here, Vaughn Precision. We are kicking off a series of videos that will be coming out over the next month or two, all about chokes, pattern testing, different chokes, different constrictions, things like that. We wanted to make it as comprehensive as possible from A to Z and give you as much information as we could. So a few months ago, Jody over at Rhino Chokes reached out to me and says, hey, can you help us put this together? It'd be great training. No matter what brand of choke you're shooting, the information is going to be the same, and they felt that that was more important than just trying to push their brand. That sold me right there. Let's get some good information out there to everybody so that you all can learn the different constrictions, how they work, the lengths of them, the skirts, the you name it, porting, non-ported, all kinds of stuff. So with all that said, let's get going. So throughout this series, everything that we're going to be talking about will be related to 12 gauge. All of the, everything still applies, right? All the principles still apply. The numbers will be different, right? So say for instance, a cylinder bore on a 12 gauge is typically 0.730. That's just the cylinder bore in here, not accounting for any choke constrictions or anything like that. Of course, a 20 gauge is going to be a little tighter, 28 even tighter than that. So just so you know, all the numbers and stuff that we're going to talk about are specific to 12 gauge. Also, we are only talking about shotguns that have interchangeable choke tubes. Not a fixed choke, but ones that you can actually swap these out. So since this is part one, and a lot of you may not know anything at all about choke tubes, and that's fine. That's what we're shooting this for, is to make sure that number one, you want to do a few things before you ever start pulling choke tubes, in and out of the barrels, and for cleaning and things like that. I like to set up my work area so that if I were to drop a choke tube, I don't ruin it. Chokes aren't cheap. They're anywhere from $50 to $100+, and if you drop one on a hard surface, you can destroy it just like that. So I like to lay down some matting. You can buy rolls of this nice soft matting at several different places. Hardware stores have them, Harbor Freight. You can find this, you can order it online. I'll leave a link down below to some matting that you can just order online if you don't have some. It's worth having. You can even order these. This here is from Otis. It's a nice little work mat. It's nice and soft, so if you did happen to drop a choke tube on here, it's not going to ruin it. Two other things I like to do is, I don't always do this, but sometimes I'll take a little board and I'll set a board up here on my bench and I'll just throw some clamps on there. All that does is prevent the choke from rolling off onto the floor. The next thing I do, and I have this all the time in my shop, is I put some rubber matting on the floor just underneath the bench, so if I did happen to drop a choke tube, it would bounce on that nice thick rubber matting, doesn't hurt the choke tube, you're not out a $100 bill. And also, before you ever start working on any type of firearm, make sure it's unloaded, there's no magazines, there's no ammo, everything's away from the firearm, it's open, it's clear, and you're ready to work. So with all that said, what is a choke? Well, a choke is basically just a constriction at the end of the barrel. That's really all it is. Typically speaking, the cylinder bore, meaning the bore inside the barrel here, internally, the inside diameter of the shotgun, is 0.730. So let me put some numbers here on the screen for you. Now, based on the manufacturer, that can actually vary quite a bit, actually. I've seen them down as low as 0.725. I've seen them up, 0.736 as a cylinder bore. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to go with the number 0.730. Then you have what they call skeet, and these are the nomenclatures or kind of the terminology often used out there. So you've got skeet, or SK. Sometimes I've seen that listed also as SKT. That's a 5/1000 constrictions. That means the bore is 5/1000 smaller in diameter than the cylinder bore. Then you've got IC, or improved cylinder. That's 10/1000. You've got LM, or light modified. That's 15/1000. You've got modified, or M for modified. That is typically 20/1000. You've got improved modified, or IM, which is even tighter yet. That is typically 25/1000. Then you've got full. That's a full choke, and that is typically 0.030 30/1000. You don't see these too often, but you've got an extra full, and those are typically .035, so 35 thousandths tighter, which is that's a very tight choke. Now on top of that, you've got turkey chokes. Now turkey chokes can be really, really constrictive. Like I've seen those as low as .650, 655, 660, 665, 670. Those are really, really tight chokes. And those are designed specifically for keeping an extremely tight pattern at longer ranges for turkeys. Now there's other chokes on the market, Rhino in particular. This is their Elite series, and they've got a set of chokes that is not your standard. So this one here is a .007, so just a little bit above a skeet. This particular one here is a .017, and that's in between the light mod and the mod, roughly. Then you've got the 022, .022, and that's kind of in between the modified and the improved modified. So pretty tight pattern out to out to those longer ranges. In fact, we'll show you that right here. So what I've done here is I have just gone over with just a black Sharpie marker, and I've just put little tick marks on all the pellet holes, just so you guys can get a better view of what we're looking at here for a pattern. So this was shot with Federal Top Gun. This is a 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch, going 1145 feet per second, 1 1/8 ounce number 8 shot. Just for reference, I've got a white flyer clay here, and if I were to hold this up in here, you can see no matter where this clay is going to be flying in here, you're going to have some pellets hitting it. I don't have many gaps at all. Okay, so this was shot at 30 yards. I also write down the information just on the corner of the paper, what I was shooting, the distance, things like that. So this particular target was shot with a Benelli 828U, 30 yards, Federal Top Gun number 8, 1145, and it was shot with the .007 Rhino Elite choke, 1 1/8 ounce load, and that is this choke right here. So the constriction on this is .007 at 30 yards. So this is a 30-inch circle drawn on here, and you can see I've circled some that fell outside of the circle here, and there's a couple up on top there too. But all in all, for 30 yards, that's a pretty good pattern. I'm pretty happy with this. Swap to a different target. Now this target, same gun, same ammo, but we're shooting the .017 Constriction Rhino Elite choke on this target. We have got a much denser pattern here. This is, I do have a couple high flyers, just some stuff on the top there. Not very many. I've got one outside the circle in the bottom here. Again, 30-inch circle. It's also important to note, I was not using a bench when I was shooting this, not using any kind of a pole to lean up against. This was all freehand. All three of these shots that I'm about to show you here, all three of these shots that we took were just freehand, standing up, shooting. The difference is this is very, very dense. So I could go further than 30 yards and still have a very good pattern. I've actually shot this choke here at 40 yards, and it just destroys some clays. It works great. So this is the Rhino 022. So .022 constriction, so in between that modified and an improved modified. You can see on this one here, when I took this freehand shot, I was just a little bit to the left for the main pattern, but that is a really tight pattern. There's only one here at the bottom that was out of the circle, and up on top, just out of screen here, there was only 3. But that is extremely, that's a very dense pattern. I wouldn't hesitate to shoot this out to 60, 80 yards on a clay pigeon at all. That's a very nice pattern. So that's what the 3 chokes did. That's the difference of them. So .007, .017, and the .022. Quite a spread difference at 30 yards. So that's going to wrap up the part 1 of this multi-part series here. I hope this helps you out, and we will come back here in a week or 2 with another video. Again, this will probably wind up being about 5 or 6 different videos. We're going to get really in-depth on this stuff. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys again real soon.